Hey guys, DC Multiverse dude here. I'm really excited to be bringing you this very early look at two of the most recent gold labels in the DC Multiverse line. That is the DC Multiverse Supergirl from DC Rebirth, who I believe is a Target exclusive in the United States, and the DC Multiverse Black Lightning from Final Crisis. Now this gold label I believe is a Walmart exclusive in the United States. I've imported both of these figures from Hong Kong, so I'm really excited to be giving these an early review, as I think these are two figures that we've wanted for quite some time, especially Supergirl. We've had the Injustice 2 Supergirl, we've had the Flash movie Supergirl. Neither of them is what you would call a traditional Kara. This should fit the bill. I'm really excited to look at it. The box is self-explanatory. You'll see she comes with a flight stand, a display stand. Supergirl, DC Rebirth. Fantastic comic art on the back, although I've already noticed some inaccuracies as compared to the figure, but we'll get into that. For Black Lightning, you see he comes with some effects, some alternate hands, Black Lightning from Final Crisis, and some fantastic artwork on the back that bears little resemblance to the figure inside, which seems to be Todd's trademark, but anyway, the art is great, you can't argue with that. So here they are, Supergirl, Black Lightning. Super excited to get these open and see how cool they actually are. So starting with Supergirl from DC Rebirth, these are all the accessories you get in the pack. You get a flight stand, which I'm really happy about. There was a time, a month or two back, where it seemed like we just weren't getting flight stands for figures that really needed a flight stand. But, you know, I'm really happy to see this here, even if the quality of the flight stand themselves is, you know, pretty average. We also get, in addition to the flight stand, your classic DC Multiverse display stand, which is nice that he's giving us both, I guess. And we get the collector's card, as always. This has got that fantastic art of Kara from DC Rebirth. And there's the bio for Kara if you want to pause and have a look. So taking Supergirl out of the box, I'm immediately, you know, impressed, but also kind of disappointed in a number of things. So first things first, let's get the positives out of the way. I think the colors on this figure are immaculate. The red of her skirt and her legs is really vibrant. The blue they've chosen is really bright blue. I think the emblem that's painted on her chest with the gold and the red looks really, really nice. You'll see that her hair is quite nicely sculpted. It's got like a nice wash in it. It doesn't look the best in all places and your mileage may vary, but overall it's a really sort of nice looking hair piece. In terms of the head sculpt, you know, it's reasonably beautiful, which in Supergirl's meant to be sort of a beautiful character. From certain angles, the light hits it and she kind of looks like she has bags under her eyes. I think that's just the way the eyes have been sculpted. This head sculpt won't be to everyone's taste. I think it's quite good, personally. Yeah, I generally like it. One thing I will say, this is the second figure, outside of Batman, this is the second figure after Catman to use a cloth cape. And while I generally like cloth capes for how dynamic they are and how posable they let figures be, this one looks a little weird. The way it's bunching around her shoulders there, and the way the cape is sort of attached to the shoulders makes it bunch, doesn't look the greatest. And if you look at Kara head on, the cape kind of sits awkwardly around her shoulders. There's not much that's elegant or sleek about the way she looks with that cape. I suppose you could sort of muck around and try and get a more natural looking flow to the cape. But yeah, as it is, it's a little bit weird. The other thing that immediately jumped out to me is she's kind of got like bulging sort of childbearing hips. And I know that's not politically correct to say, but I kind of don't know how to describe it. The proportions feel off. I think a large part of it is just the way that the skirt is this separate piece that's fitting around the waist. It creates unnecessary bulk around her hips. Yeah, you see she's got like junk in her trunk. Just the way it's sculpted just looks really, really awkward. Yeah. It's just an awkward big skirt piece that makes her hips look very, very wide. On the positive side, it has a nice sort of texture to the sculpt. And I think that belt is painted in gold really beautifully, not too much paint slop, which is really, really nice. Obviously the elephant in the room are her legs. Supergirl wears very high boots, and you are meant to see the legs the bare skin of her legs, and of course this doesn't. I don't know why that is, why they couldn't have applied some flesh-toned paint up there to actually create the boot effect. I don't know. But that's a major disappointment, and it's just inaccurate to the source material. And I think we're at this point of the line where, you know, we're starting to demand and require a little bit more accuracy, but there you go, it is what it is. It's not a deal breaker, but I know that for many, that might actually render this something of a disappointment. The other thing I would say, while her wrists are that newer style of sculpted ball joint that works really well, her ankles, while sculpted, are not sculpted that nicely. So they appear bulbous. So she's got these really big bulbous ball ankles, which I don't love. And, you know, she deserved something a little sleeker. So aesthetically, you know, it's an interesting one. There are some parts of it that I really like, and there are some parts of it that I think could have been done better with not too much extra effort. Like, she's fine. She looks good. She's easily the best Supergirl we've got in the line to date. So I don't see us getting another Supergirl anytime soon. This might be the one to get for most collectors. Doesn't come with alternate flight hands, and in any event, you know, her head, by virtue of that hair, it doesn't really rock forward or back. You can't move it. You can barely turn it left and right. It disrupts the cape. So there's not much going on in her head. The articulation is fairly standard. Let's see how much leg kick she can get with that skirt. Not that much. So this is kind of like a diaper on steroids. The McFarlane diaper times 1,000. This skirt just sort of really inhibits the poses you can get with her. You know, it's soft plastic, but it's not going to accommodate that much. She's got the, you know, pins at the knees, double jointed knees, so she's going to have plenty of leg articulation. No swivel anywhere other than at the ankle. Her arms can go above her head, you know, pretty good arm articulation, double jointed elbows. So, you know, pretty good in the arms, average in the legs. She gets very little ab crunch forward, very little back, and she can waist swivel and not much going on in terms of that diaphragm cut. She's not swiveling there. So she's a bit stiff, which is a bit disappointing. I suppose the flight pose that you'd want to get her in with her hands extended forward, flying in space, you're just not going to get that from her. And I think that is, you know, a little bit upsetting. But for me personally, again, not a deal breaker. So look, I'm not one of the best posers around, far from it, but you can kind of see that she can at least accommodate sort of that floating pose, which is fairly iconic, and she looks pretty good too. You can kind of see how the size of the skirt makes her look a bit bulky below the waist. You know, the leg articulation, you won't be able to get that knee kicking out too high, but it kind of gets the job done, and I think she looks reasonably good. The cape bunching around the shoulders is a bit of a drag, and I know I've seen sort of unduly negative on this figure, but it's just kind of like one of those figures that is really, really nice, and it fills a hole in the collection that we've really been wanting filled. It's just, it could have used a few tweaks to make it much, much better. I think maybe in this instance, a sculpted cape might have been better, and it's rare for me to say that because I really, really love the cloth capes, but I feel like this one just maybe is a bit too much for the slender frame of the figure. The cape should have been smaller, or it should have been attached to her body a different way. And I think the skirt should have been handled differently. I'm not sure what the solution is in terms of engineering, but I just don't know that this is it. Overall though, really, really nice figure, just not an excellent figure. It's kind of like, I'm feeling like it's not top 10 of the year material, but like it's an essential figure for my collection. So that's where I think I'm landing with Supergirl. And I recommend you pick her up if you're sort of wanting a Supergirl for your collection. This is definitely the one to get. Turning now to having a look at Black Lightning. In terms of accessories, we have the DC Multiverse display stand we've seen 1,000 times. We've got a set of alternate hands. One is a gesture hand and one is a closed fist. And that's a good addition, and I'll show you why when we look at the figure. And finally, we have the collector's card, which you'll see is from Final Crisis, some beautiful art, which does not actually resemble the figure at all. And there is the bio on the back, if you'd like to pause that and have a read. There you go. So fairly standard in terms of accessories. So here we have Black Lightning out of the box, and right off the bat, this figure surprised me in a number of ways. Good, and mostly good actually, and not much bad. So right off the bat, you know, I think it's just got a really nice sort of proportioned body. This is the Speeding Bullets body buck. I think it's a really nice body buck. It's kind of really muscular and heroic. I like the proportions of it a lot. I don't know why they don't use it more often. Well, actually, I have a theory about why they don't use it more often. I'll get to that in a second. But right off the bat, I think aesthetically he looks great. I think the painted on lightning bolts here are really, really nice. Let me show you. You can kind of see how they flow on from the butterfly joint, and that looks quite cohesive. Being the Speeding Bullets body buck, this musculature is really familiar, but because the emblem is missing, you can kind of see the new sculpting underneath for the pectorals. There's some wrinkles there in the pectorals that look really good that weren't there on the Speeding Bullets buck. You'll see that on the arms, that sort of ribbing from the Speeding Bullets body buck is still there. It's not strictly accurate, but I think it looks pretty good in general. The head sculpt, I know most people would have preferred the bald version of Jefferson Pierce. This is pretty good though. I think the hair is sort of nicely sculpted. It's kind of got a glittering effect in it. I don't know if that's intentional, but yeah, his hair glitters. That big ugly seam through the head is kind of annoying. I don't know why his head is in two parts like that. You don't often see that. So yeah, kind of ugly if you look at it from up there, but front on, it looks great. I like the yellow eyes, and I think the face is kind of a nice mixture between realism and stylized comic book. Pretty good looking head sculpt. These hands are awesome. Now these effects that I thought were effects pieces, accessories, are actually just molded into the hand. And you can kind of see the hand peg underneath, you know, but it's not super visible. It doesn't look bad. And these are molded really, really nicely. And this one in particular is just like a claw hand with the effects coming off it. It looks great. I actually think this is much, much better than those like effects that you're meant to position over a figure's arm. For any figure that has like power in their hands, I think this is the way to do it. So the Raven figure that we got in the Titans Build-A-Figure wave, she sort of had a flame effect that you're meant to sort of attach to the pegs. Those were not as good as this. I think this is the way you do it. And that's how those should have been done. It looks really, really good. So while I appreciate that we get the alternate hands, I don't know why you would pose this figure with any other hands other than these. They look amazing. Coming down to the waist, this is where things get weird. So that belt, the gold sort of lightning bolt belt, is a little bulky. It's sculpted. It's obviously a piece that they have just individually sculpted and then glued on. The problem here is that this diaper piece has the sculpted belt from Speeding Bullets, which is just not accurate to the character design, and it's among the most lazy things I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, you can reuse this buck, that's fine, but at least give us a new diaper piece, which doesn't have that belt on it. It's not meant to be there. It kind of breaks up the sculpt. It takes away from the lightning bolt. It just doesn't look great. There's that ribbing again on the legs from the Speeding Bullets buck. Again, I actually think it looks pretty good, and you can't complain. You see his ass looks great. There's some sort of wrinkles in the fabric there. He's busting at the seams, looks great. Yeah, the boots, they're sort of nicely molded. There's some nice wrinkles down there that give it some dimension. He's largely sort of molded plastic apart from the paint up here, but with a classic design like this, I think that works really well. I think this is a really good looking figure, and I think this buck is awesome. McFarlane just needs to be a bit more judicious in how he adapts it for future molds. So I think, you know, this ribbing is fine. That belt under there, not fine. Not good, McFarlane, not acceptable. But honestly, like, if you kind of look at him from a distance and you don't hyper focus on that like I am, he looks really good. This is an impressive figure overall. And look, if McFarlane's rationale is we wouldn't have got this figure if he didn't reuse the Speeding Bullets body buck, then I can accept that as a worthy compromise. I just wish a little bit more care had been taken. I mean, he went to the effort of sculpting these amazing hands. Why not just sculpt a new diaper piece that doesn't have the belt attached? In terms of articulation, he spins right around at the waist, a lot of forward ab crunch, reasonable back. At the diaphragm, he doesn't do much. Oh, actually, no, it's pretty good. I don't want to force it any more than that, but you'll get sort of the dynamic posing that you want. The arms are good. Butterfly joint gives a lot of sort of, you can give a lot of personality to the position of his shoulders and arms, so that's good. Double jointed at the elbows. No problem there. Looks really, really good. Kicking forward, you can do a reasonable job. The diaper inhibits that a little bit. Double jointed knees. Can he kick his own butt? Not quite. So you're not going to get much more than that, but really what more do you need? Standard ankle rotation, pivot, toe articulation. You know, there's nothing too surprising here. It's a good mold. It's a good buck. It was good with speeding bullets, and it's good here. In terms of the head movement, you get 360 degrees. Looks up that much, looks down that much. It's pretty much everything you want. Head tilt, left and right, pretty good. So articulation-wise, this figure's actually really good. It'll do just about any sort of dynamic pose that you'd want to get him in. I think he looks great. Yeah, overall, a winner. So here they are, Supergirl from DC Rebirth and Black Lightning from Final Crisis. Should you buy these figures? I think I've already answered that. Yes and yes. If you are any sort of fan of either, if you're a completist who just wants to fill out your DC Multiverse world, I think these are both must-haves. If you're going to get a Supergirl, this is definitely the one to get. And Black Lightning, I doubt we're going to see another Black Lightning for quite some time, if ever. And you're not going to get too much better than this, in my opinion. I think this is the surprise winner of this sort of pair. I wasn't anticipating him as much, but now that I have him in hand, he's really, really cool. I think most of it is down to this excellent Speeding Bullets body buck, which I hope they use more with the right sort of modifications. Kara is really, really good, just not great. The cloth cape I like, though I just don't know how it's implemented with this figure. I don't know that it's quite that good. The legs, you should have been able to see some bare skin. It's just inaccurate to the design, and that's all there is to it. The head sculpt is nice. The posability is relatively nice, apart from what's inhibited by the skirt piece. Yeah, look, two winners, not perfect, but I think any serious collector can't live without either of these. So if you can track them down, I highly recommend you do that. If you like this video, please like, subscribe if you haven't. And tell me in the comments which of these figures you actually prefer and which, if any, you'll be picking up. Until next time, happy collecting, and thanks for watching. This video was brought to you with the support of Fett's Hideout Toys and Collectibles. For a great range of toys from DC Multiverse to Black Series to Marvel Legends, Hot Toys and more, visit Fett's Hideout Toys and Collectibles and use the offer code DCDUDE. That's DCDUDE for an exclusive discount month to month. Could be 5% off or $5 off at checkout. Try the code, see what you get, place an order with Fett's, and you won't be disappointed. And we thank Fett's for their continued support of this channel.